Okay. So I did a few things off camera and I had to get some parts at work that were not in my kit. And the first one is the screws, the proper screws uh for the plexi, the top cover. I also got carbon fiber nylon pieces instead of PCCF. Um, but I will put those on later. But for now, I just want to get it going. Um, while I was off, or today, or last night actually, after the stream, I um I basically did the plexi, the door, sorry, the side panels and the door. Um, it was very easy. It is cool and really satisfying, but like I just wanted to get those parts done because they were kind of tedious. Um, and I believe on stream I did put the side panels on. So, but I had to end at like 9:30, so I could have a normal schedule. But tonight I basically rushed home, did my errands, and ate, and I'm back here. So I did get two sets of parts. These are the PCCF, sorry, PACF, which is it's actually a polymaker filament that we have that is printed on the Core 1. And then I have the ones for the MMU3 Core 1 conversion. So I am going to do an MMU3 Core 1. I don't know when, but I'm going to do it. I basically have the remains of a MMU2, which I believe is the same board and hardware. I just need to buy all the little extras. And I might be doing a different variation of the MMU2. The screws I have are the ones that we use for the conversion, 4M plus conversions. So, and we just had to make sure that they weren't counted. Nope. Sorry about that. Finally fell. Yeah, this camera mount is going away. This is the last time I use this camera mount. This is probably one of the worst camera mounts I've ever had to use. I tried to use a tripod, but the tripod doesn't go tall enough. That's gonna be a good blooper. This is what happens when you do live content. So let's rearrange this a little bit. Kind of point it down more. Okay. Yeah, I might have to make a video out of that all on its own. But essentially I want to make my own boom arm that holds a camera and a light. A soft light. I will actually basically want 3 boom arms. I want 2 for soft lighting. The mic, I'm going to just continue using a lapel because it seems to work. And then I'm going to use 1 for the camera. I might actually do a fixed camera and do a pan to tilt zoom, but I do want to be able to get different angles when I'm working on stuff on the workbench. It would be really nice if I could actually mount it to the ceiling, but as I'm in an apartment, I don't want to mount anything to the ceiling. So, in my previous apartment in Dallas, I actually had a zip line going from one end of the wall to the other as a steel cable suspended across the 2, and I use that for my VR cable. So if I could do something like that, maybe And that way it's only 2 holes in the wall with a stud. And then I can basically string up anything over it. Or I can mount a pole across the room. And that way I can hang stuff. But I think for this case, I'm going to try to mount it directly above the workbench and use it as storage. I basically might do something like a rep rack, but a rep rack that I can clamp stuff to and then point downward, or put, like, add a boom arm to essentially the end of a rep rack. Because a lot of unsprung weight, you want to put it on a good steady surface. So I think a French cleat would be good enough. And I do have cutoffs of the French cleats, so I don't have to remake them. Or I can use the printed wall hangers. So. Wait a second, I'm gonna. You just blasting my final. I'm not gonna be online though. I want to at least sleep by 10 or so. Trying to get self promotion. So I need. I keep saying it, but I gotta automate this because I can't imagine there's not an easy way to do this. What I want to do is Alan Mandic, who I'm a Patreon supporter of. I really do like his. Yeah, I like Alan Mandic's stuff. I kind of wish I was able to talk to him more, but I know he's super busy with stuff. But yeah, there's a ton of spam. There's so many discords that I lose track of all of them. So okay. Okay. Pezlos is giving away some filament and a Delta Flyer. Ooh. And then I know Joel on Saturday or tomorrow, actually. Yeah, tomorrow I think he's doing a giveaway. Joel's doing a big giveaway stream. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. Okay. Let's get this started. Okay, so we have the plexi cover, the vent cover, M3 locking nuts. I have my M3x12s. Three locking nuts. I'm not messing with music tonight, so if it gets dry, we'll have to just deal with it. I am going to look for a better music service. But I just want something that I can rely on stream wise. That's a consistent uh, license that I can just press play and it manages the music for me. And I'm sure that exists. I just have every time I try to do music on the stream, it just ends up being one more thing to maintain on stream. I have two pieces. I have an official PCCF part and PCCF, and this is the nylon PA6 CF. I believe the official one is the one that has a smooth, because they print on satin plates, and this is a textured plate, and it's a little bit rougher. I actually have 3 of them somehow, but essentially I think I have 2 of the PCCF ones. I'm probably gonna take these back, see if they can reuse them. So if you order a Core 1, your Core 1 Plus might have one of my parts. I don't think these are going to go in production. I'm pretty sure these are not the production ones. I wouldn't touch the production parts. Those are definitely special. Basically, we can go through stuff without quality control, or get stuff that before it goes through a quality control and before it goes in inventory. But plastic rivets. Yeah, I already have plastic rivets. More rivets. They don't really give you, I mean, they give you a lot of rivets, but they don't give you a lot of rivets. First, remove the protection foil from both sides of the plastic sheets. Flip the part around to remove the protective foil on the other sides. So it looks like with my clean hands, this thing's going to get so dirty. You get the satisfying pull. Hot plastic. Hey, how goes the upgrades? Well, I'm doing the vent cover, which only thing really changed on the vent cover is that they use a printed part that essentially has stops on it, and then the little finger goes and moves the vent cover up and down, or side to side. It's a really simple design, and I think it's effective. What's really cool about it is that you can have the vent in any position, open or closed, and then all they do is they use the M870 G code, which is a unused G code command in Marlin, and it will open and close the gate based on if you say O or S, or O or C. So it's M870 C, M870O. So you could actually, and it's material dependent too. So I believe if you select PLA or at G, it will open the vent. I believe when you do anything high temperature, closes the vent. And I believe they do variables in the start G code. But I could investigate the start G code. That will be interesting. See how they do it. It also could be a macro that's built into the firmware. I'm not sure. Okay, my welcome hot plastic. Thanks for that. I pretty much only blast on social media and on Discord mostly. I do have my own Discord, but I try to keep it private-ish. I'm pretty much on every Discord you can think of. Like I'm on like every 3D printing Discord you can imagine. And sounds, yeah. Scratching on it. And okay, so I thought I could do this without it being on the printer. I'm gonna try to do it on the printer. The printer is on the floor, so I gotta move all this. So what I'm gonna do is put this here. Let's see. Without scratching anything. Try to set the printer right here on a workbench. This might be interesting. Hey, driver. But yeah, Alan Mandic. I'm on his Discord with the Patreon. I'm on. Who else is it? I think Zach Freeman has a Discord. A lot. I'm also on his Patreon. Those are the two big ones. Yeah, it's kind of sketchy. So this thing is so big that I can't really get it in frame. So I'm going to. So now we're really high. So this is the way to print, and now we give it a nice step stool. If I'm short. All right. This is not a symmetric piece. You know, they're cleaning this forever. There's 3 nub screw heads that are like, yeah, so that's actually, it actually has a polarity. Not polarity, but orientation that matters. So these screw holes here and here and here are not symmetric. And so if you put it on the wrong way, it prevents you from putting it on the wrong way. I'm going to have to get a lint-free cloth, and this is going to get super dirty soon. I just give up now. It's not really a fingerprint magnet as much as it's a dust magnet. It's like statically clung. Thing. I just ground myself on a chassis that are grounded. Yeah, now I've met him a few times at Repro festivals. I remember the first time I met him, microphone clips came out. Hopefully that's not too loud for you. Hey, printer. I haven't installed them because I'm not going to really touch the extruder right now. I'm just doing the top panel. I just got started. Hey, thank you. For a comparison like size, here is my arm. I mean, I have a small arm, but like this printer is huge. Hey, Hot Plastic, thanks for the sub. If you're new here, I have not been uploading or streaming. I've been streaming on Twitch mainly, and so I'm starting to switch to YouTube. Last time I streamed was last year, building the. I do some game streams on Twitch, but like the last printer build I did was the Positron. That was a year ago, so over a year ago. So Um, yeah. This is a heavy printer and I am small, so it has been a chore to get it up and down. Especially since this workbench is kind of a higher workbench for me. The part of the vent opening front and the if oriented correctly, the cover will align with the recesses, the bolt heads in the corner, into the cutouts. So just to show you, these little 4 screw holes, you got to pay attention to and make sure it's actually seated down. It's kind of foolproof. I don't think you can really mess that up. Then we're gonna all 3 screws, which I did get M3 by 12s. And we're gonna put a little plastic rivets on them. Yeah, I think they did a really good job making it not look like a science experiment. Um, Especially since their competition is a glass, 4xy box with, some smooth sides and all the electronics and wiring are hidden. Um, that said, you can see some of the wiring, but it's not bad. But like, it doesn't have a fancy face cover that's magnetically attached or anything. It's still the raw hardware. I like the aesthetic of it. I think it looks great. But yeah, they did a really good job using acrylic panels and not making it look cheap. Um, Something beeped at me. That's interesting. Okay. Hope it wasn't important. Let's see here. Insert the screws into the 3 slot openings. Yeah, the printers. Yeah, anyway, I think the Core 1 and the Core 1L, like, they went out of their way to make a marketable printer that looks good on a desk and like a workshop, and like, because aesthetics are important, but also ecosystem is important too. Printables, easy print, print, Prusa slicer, all that stuff. Having profiles that are pre-made, that's all important with this stuff. It's all about presentation and easy use. So align the vent cover with the screw ends on the bottom and tighten the rightmost nut onto the fixed up cover in place. I think the vent cover is just verifying I'm reading this correctly, but so when I picked up the Core 1, I did the LCD last night. There's nothing special about the LCD. It's just 2 screws. The whole thing it's up magnetic on there. The door seals, if you pay attention, the weather stripping's pretty easy to install. You just have to kind of guide your finger around the edge and cut out the excess, make sure they don't overlap. And then the door hinges basically are held down with a single screw, and then the magnets, the polarity doesn't matter but I try to make the polarity the same because it's steel. And I think these are bipolar magnets. And I'm going to push the print head back so I can get to The belts are not tensioned, so I'm going to try this. This this material is super flexible too. There is a polarity, a directionality of this, so you got to pay attention to that. Yeah, so the line of vent, however, the three ends. Uh, I'm not sure entirely which direction it goes. I think it's depending on. I think if it opens and closes. So if the screw holes are in there and all three, if all three screw holes are aligned like that, I think if you had it on backwards, I can't really show you, but essentially if it's open or closed, if you had it on backwards, upside down, the screw holes would line up, but the vent would always be open or closed, I think. Yeah, I want to make sure it's actually, I'm sure they're going to say that in the steps. Now, it works both ways. So if you guys know which way to go, that's would help. What I can gather from the picture is that this orientation where the screw holes are on the right side of this vent. So the screw holes are offset this way. That looks like the way that it's supposed to be. It doesn't say anything in the previous step though. But from the picture, it does look like from the picture, it looked like this way. Uh, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter too much. It really looks like it's this way. Well, it makes a difference if left is open and right is closed, or right is closed and left is open. I think we had that issue before when we try to do this. So I'm going to. But they don't tell you left is open, right is closed. Just looking at that one picture though, it looks like right is open, left is closed. So that makes sense. So the right is open. It would be nice if the instructions actually told you though, which way to put this piece. Um, ah. Yep, right is open, left is closed. That looks correct to me. And so the right side, screw. This plastic stinks. It has kind of a weird smell to it. But I think most plastics do have a weird smell when they're fresh. This doesn't smell like acrylic though. It smells like whatever pigment they use. Um, and I believe this is this way. I see it through the door. Yeah. Kind of tricky to do this. Honestly, I think this should, they're trying to have you do it on the printer. It probably should be done on the bench and then you put it on the top of the printer. I think they do that so that you don't mess up their orientation. I think they could probably mark the correct orientation to begin with. It is a pretty decent design though. Like, it's a real simple design. It's basically just a louver cover compared to what like Bamboo does with their gear motor flap, their spoiler. And honestly, this could have a spoiler too. But in industrial machines, you would just have a fan, and the fan would have louvers that would evacuate the air. Technically, they could have just done hinged louvers in the back, and that could have been your ventilation. Or this could actually have a spring-loaded louver that opens only when the fans are active. That would have also worked. But they can also use this for ventilation. So, but the fact that it's an automated vent system, it's kind of cool. Ideally, the most of this is like you want hands off as much as possible. I went to the point where like you barely even load the filament. Like you could keep the filament in the filament box, the dry box, and like just barely feed it in and it works. That would be cool. Um, so I'm using my famous dual layer pliers to tighten this bolt. Yeah, you can get parallel jaw pliers are super useful, especially the smooth ones. You kind of want to lightly tighten all of them and then back them off until it just scoots, because then it won't make a good seal if it's closed and it's has a lot of gap. But oh yeah, you don't want it to crack either. I think like a quarter turn back, like a whole turn backwards is enough play. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, but if it binds, your little stick on the head won't catch it. Oh, that's too much. You should be able to just like one finger turn. That's it. It's pretty loose. I mean, I would say I have maybe about half a millimeter. I don't think it has to be that critical, but the printer part kind of acts like a spacer. So that doesn't matter as much. Yeah, it's real sensitive. So I think some people are just going to leave it loose. There's really no rhyme or reason, just also this doesn't, all this stuff doesn't really matter that much. It's just a cover. Okay, I'm gonna leave it. I can tell just from being here that this has become so dirty. I'm gonna have to get a lint-free cloth and I think just water, as far as I know. Water and lint-free cloth or in Novus 2. Novus 2 is a plastic polish. I think it's Novus 3 is the cleaner. Novus 1 is the actual like abrasive polish. Novus 2, I think, removes like light scratches, and then Novus 3, I think, is the actual cleaner. But yeah, this thing is a dust magnet. Absolutely a dust magnet. Okay, so the next step. So you do actually assemble it off of it. So what doesn't make sense is why they go back here. They say run all the 3 screws and insulating. Make sure the flange part of the insert is oriented towards the screw head, which makes sense. Insert the screws into the inserts to the 3 stops of the vent. And then the next step, align the vent cover screws at the bottom. So they have the vent already taken off. It looks a little disjointed from that step. Like they make it look like you actually assemble it on top of the printer. But yes, and it doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you in here. It doesn't tell you that right is open, left is closed, according to their picture. So you have to kind of figure out from their picture, right is open, left is closed. And I bet, see, there hasn't been comments on any of this stuff. And I think if we were to go back, and I kind of want to edit this video now because I think there's just guide inconsistencies. So if you do assemble, door and trim, I think they copy the exact same information. But yeah, you have to get basically context clues from the picture, and it's not very clear what orientation these screw holes are supposed to be. This picture actually is accurate from what I can tell, where the screw holes are on the right side of these openings. That makes sense. And yeah, this also makes sense. So basically, if you look at it, they're halfway through open and close. And it looks like, if you can just tell from context if you've ever seen one. But if I haven't seen this before, I would not know because it's not telling me specifically, what clues to look for. Okay, so I already did the side covers, so I'm not going to do that. But you can see, essentially, you remove the plastic, you pop 5 rivets on each side. It's really easy. And then you do the same side. The LCD cover was not tricky. The LCD cover did come with a new knob, so I didn't need the old knob from the LCD from the electronic package, again from the Mark IV, pulled from the, and then there was a new knob with the injection molded part here. And then this is a printed case. There was no film because it was already taken apart. So there are 3 self-tapping screws. There was no corner here. It just fell in place. It says like the new one, if you have an older version, it may hook into the LCD, which it doesn't. So you screw it in place. And then there's the fast on. With the pliers, you hold it, you tighten it. I tightened it enough that it will make contact and not loosen. The knob is pretty easy. There's a little detent there's a flat spot inside the injection molded part that goes on there. The screws. Yeah, so the only tricky part is that there's a slot here. There's a slot that kind of curves downward, and you put a thread, he said, or a square nut in there, but it was really difficult to get that in there. I had to kind of use a flathead screwdriver and kind of and wire snips to kind of open the opening for that and push it in, and it was really hard to push in. But I got centered, and then used M3x6 screws, and then you slide them in here to the metal part, and you make sure it's all the way down. Make sure the lip is on the top, and then tighten them. Then you go and install. The printhead. Sorry, not the printhead, the LCD head. And make sure the fasten connector and the ribbon aligns to the left of the printer. And you slide it on. You kind of do it at an angle. And then the door seals, which I've already done. But essentially you start with the top one with an offset amount. And then you seal them on the bottom. Do the magnets. Then the door. Then the pins. Those pins were a little tricky, but you essentially just use pliers and push down. I used the torque spit to kind of get it started, or I kind of pushed it in and get it started. And then you open it. There was no plastic on the back side of the door, so I only had to peel the front of the back side. There was none on the front side. I put it in there. I screwed it in. The door handle was a little tricky because you kind of have one shot at it without ruining the VHP tape. But essentially, you line it up at the corner, and then you kind of tilt it backwards until it sticks, and you just make sure it's lined up at the top so it's not put on crooked. I do not have the Plus logo. Basically, I need to wait to get a Plus logo. I'm not gonna order the kit. I'm gonna just. I think it would be funny if I just printed out. First thing I do is print a little white Plus out of PLA and then just stick it to there with a temporary adhesive. I mean, essentially, that's the same thing. But they even go through like the masking tape part, the transfer tape, perfectly fits over the one that's screen printed on here or UV inkjet printed, and so that you can align it. But this is a surprisingly hard thing to do for some people. So, and then make sure it's fully on there. But okay, so now we are to calibration. There we go. Okay. That's why I wanted to do this, because I could go right into calibration. So the spool holder I have, I can't really show you easily, but Nomad printed one for me, and it already had an O-ring on it. But essentially it's a 1-inch O-ring. I think it's a 3mm diameter 1-inch O-ring. And it has these kind of locking features that basically go in a twist lock. And yes, it does twist this way, which is the direction it locks in the direction of the feed. So you're not gonna pull it back. You're not loading it, and then if it grabbed this, it would unscrew and then pull out. So it actually is the correct direction. So the O-ring is already there. Make sure there is nothing on the heat bed. The heat bed must be clean. Any dirt can damage the heat bed. Attach the sheet by first aligning the rear cutouts. Watch your finger. Keep the sheet clean. Use isopropyl alcohol to degrease it if you've touched the surface before. Put the O-ring on the spool test to go. Push the spool. Okay. O-ring, push it in there. I'm going to do that. You can't really see it, but it's dumb. It's simple. I think the puck is a good idea because then you can put a spool holder on there, or you can customize the spool holder is really why they did that. So you're not having to mess with 4 screws on the inside of the machine. I think that's a big part of it. All printers come with a USB drive containing the latest firmware. Mine does not. However, it is recommended to check the website and firmware version. So I have a flash drive from I have a 6.4. Okay. Mine did not, as far as I know, come with a flash drive. I looked. It came with a handbook. I think it's because it assumes that you have the Mark IV already loaded with the latest firmware, which is what I did. So I'm going to find my print sheet, get my print sheet ready. I'm going to use the silk plate. So I have my silk sheet, my original silk sheet. I'm going to switch that out. It did come with 2 samples of PLA, a sample of PLA, and then I think a sample of their orange and their PLA Galaxy Black. And then, as far as I know, though, it basically, there's about a dozen fasteners left from the kit. And then I have a bunch of leftover printed parts that I got, which I probably will take back. And then I have a couple of nozzles that I need to clean. I will show this off though, because nobody's on the stream. But he did a remix already. So it's a extendable one for a 2K spool. And uses the O-ring, same connector. So if you're interested, and also when it twists, it just tightens it against there. So I'll have to test that. But the puck has a flat spot on it, so I think that prevents the side of the spool from actually going in. But I think what I'm going to use, because I am going to use 2K spools, I'm going to use his spool holder design for now. I do like the original though, but I don't have a lot of. I kind of have a mix of 2Ks and 1K spools. I might actually redesign my own with a spline, so that way it doesn't have a twist. It just pulls out. Maybe pull out and locks in place for a certain size. Okay, now flash drive. I want to run this off of I like the Micro Center ones, and I think it's also because that's the only one I have right now at my disposal. I'm going to actually, let's do this on the Mac so that I can show you. So let me plug in this flash drive. If I have a spare USB available, I do. Uh-oh. Did I lose my... Made my mouse not work, but interesting. Okay. Now, Firmware. There's more, there's the latest firmware, as far as I can tell. Oh, that's for the Core 1L, sorry. So 6.4. Okay. Let me minimize this real quick. Transfer it over to the side. Close up the chat. USB disk. Downloads. I have a lot of G code because this is the flash drive I used for my Mark IV. Oh, I copied the wrong one. Core 1 Plus 6.4. Okay. Now we're going to eject the disk. Okay. So now yeah, loading firmware is so exciting. I probably don't have to do this, but it was already set up with Prusa Connect and everything. Insert the drive into the USB. Connect the power cable and plug into the wall. Turn on the printer. The printer will detect the new firmware. If any firmware is available, Screen Plus hit flash. The printer is running the latest firmware, so it might ignore this message. But this is a good test now. So I have a plug already ready to go because it also did not come with a power plug. I got a lot of stuff on the park bench. Let's move the Haribo out of here because I have not eaten that all yet. Okay, and power supply is back here. I can just reach it. There you go. And hold on. Let me get this a good action shot of the Core 1 starting up for the first time. Are we ready? Firmware update required. Insert the bundled USB drive. Restart the printer and click the knob once during boot. This will install the correct firmware. Okay. Firmware available. Firmware 6.4.0 file name core 0, Coreo flash. Okay, now the firmware is verifying. So yes, you do actually have to flash the firmware, whether you have a Mark IV or not before. So I would not skip that step. There's a really loud fan back here. Oh, okay. Hey, it turns on. Printer type. This is important. Printer type changed from Mark IV to Core 1. Factory reset will be performed. Some configurations that work filament profiles will be preserved. Will be preserved. Continue. Now it's doing calibration of resetting the calibrations, resetting the common misconfigurations. It's keeping the network settings, keeping the UI settings, and the statistics, which is awesome. It's keeping the statistics is cool because now I know the Mark IV, how long the Mark IV has had, like, which is about, like, I don't know, like 2 months worth of printing or something like that, a month worth of printing. Hardware configurations reset, printer functions reset. I don't know what the last line is, but it tells you what it's resetting as it's doing it. Okay. So yeah, the conversions. Oh, there we go. Hi, this is your Prusa Core 1 printer. I would like to guide you through the setup process. Okay, printer type. It doesn't say Core 1 Plus. It just says Core 1. Print head. It's a 0.4 nozzle. It is not a hardened. It is a high flow, and it has a silicon sock. It is the... Okay, so you can select if it's the stock or the MMU. I have not upgraded to the MMU tool head yet. Chamber filtration is not installed yet. There is no camera. Chamber vent control is on auto, which it should do now. Okay. Run the self-test. Make sure the print bed sheet is installed. Okay, so before I do that, I'm gonna wipe this down. This is gonna be hard to see. You can kind of see it through here, but it's doing some weird trick. That's weird. Anyway, let's get a clean paper towel. God, I've gone through so many paper towels with this project. And isopropyl alcohol. And then the bed sheet, I am gonna probably wash with soap and water before I install it, just to make sure it's absolutely clean. I already cleaned the bed sheet again, but during installation, it probably... every time I put alcohol on a paper towel, it goes right to my cut. This cut right here on my thumb, this little cut, I have been feeling it so much. It's one of the worst cuts I've ever had. I try to put a Band-Aid on it, but like every time I wash my hands, I gotta refresh it. Band-Aid comes off, so I gotta redo the Band-Aid. I love the smell of isopropyl. So bad for you. I like it because it reminds me of cleanliness, which I'd much rather smell that than other smells. There are some light scratches on my bed, but it's pretty clean. I've tried to do the best job doing this, but there's only so much cleanliness you can have. I'm also gonna clean the inside of the chassis, as these have been sitting open for a little bit. If you notice, there's only a caution sticker. There's no assembled in the EU sticker. So I'm considering putting my own on there. I do not know how the serial numbers work on this. I think the serial number matches to a kit, a conversion kit, but it doesn't have the Mark IV serial number on it. Then a plate. Let me actually get soap and water. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna wash this real quick. Dawn dish soap. I'm gonna wash it in my sink with a paper towel. My print sheet says original Prusa, so it doesn't actually say it's a smooth PEI sheet, but it doesn't say Mark IV or Core 1. So, and I would like to, honestly, I would like to get a custom one by, what is his name? The guy who makes the custom print bed sheets for people. If you know, post in the chat, because I forgot what the minimum cost is, but it's kind of expensive, but like, how cool would it be to have my name like embedded on it? I'm kind of scraping off all the residue. My build plate sheet is pretty worn. I'm gonna put it on the cleanest side. Let me wipe it down with a paper towel. Make sure it's fully rinsed. Sorry, this is not exciting, but especially since I can't show you my bathroom. Grab it. And I'm gonna use another few paper towels. This is kind of wasteful, but a clean build plate with soap and water goes a long way. And then just basically don't touch the sheet. Just only touch the sheet on the corners. That's kind of the rule. And then when you have to scrape stuff off, use a printed scraper or something. And yes, I am going to print the name badge. That's the first thing I'll do after we do the belt tensioning. I'm hoping to get the belt tensioning done and then go straight into calibration self-test, but I think calibration is going to take us another hour to do. So, perfectly clean plate. See how shiny that is? You can barely see the residue. This has a little bit of residue on it, but from the previous operations. If you are going to touch the sheet, I noticed that if you use the back of your hand to like wipe away stuff, your back of your hand is a lot less dirty than the front of your fingertips. But yes, I'm going to install the sheet. But yes, I'm going to put the blue plate on immediately after this. Okay, so I'm going to press OK. Oh, those fans are loud. They are going out. So they are facing the right direction. With 40% power. Okay. All the fans passed. That's a good start. Calibration of the door sensor is only necessary for user assembled printers or it serves the door. It can. I want to calibrate the door sensor. Is the door closed? If not, please close it to confirm. Now fully open the door and confirm it's open. Grab the door with the middle finger and place your fingers behind it and close it as shown in the picture. Then confirm. Open the door and loosen the tension screw by about a quarter turn. And it is Allen key. It's a 3mm or 2.5mm Allen key adjustment. This is a very tight screw. Loosen is what they said. Let me make sure it's actually loosening. This would be easier to do without this side panel in the way. So the screw that holds this, so this, the switch can pivot on a screw, but it's so tight that you kind of have to push the switch back on that screw. So you basically have to confirm that the switch is pushed up against the screw, and then because the screw is all the way loose, and then I'm tightening it to actually push it forward right now. So I'm going to do like one turn. And it also depends on your hand too. There we go. I can see the switch move with the screw. So the screw is actually just now engaging, but it still has to go forward a little bit. I think the switch has a little ball bearing roller on the end of it. And I bet if that gets bent, Oh, wow, it has to stick out quite a bit. There you go. The hysteresis part is actually right. But most of the likely, I'm also going to disable this feature because I don't like the door pausing the print. It is nice, but I like to mess with my printers when they're printing. But it does have some adjustment. There we go. Open the door, loosen tension screw, a quarter turn, then close the door, and you're room. Okay. I think this is finding. Okay, so quarter return loosened. And close the door and continue. Okay, so it's actually repeating until closing the door doesn't engage. The belt's not tensioned, so it's making a bunch of noise. I'm gonna pre-tension these belts because I believe it's not able to calibrate. The belts were so loose that it can't really move. It's basically the motors are engaged right now, so it's actually slipping on the pulley. They didn't say anything about pre-tensioning. That might be a little over tension, but I don't know yet. So I'm gonna have it do the test again. There we go. Yeah, I had to. It was so loose that it was just skipping on the pulleys. Now we're gonna actually do calibration testing. Now it says, do you want to continue? Yes. X. And do X max. So I must have got it close to tensioned if it's actually detecting it now. But it doesn't do belt tensioning right away. So when I was building it, nowhere in the instructions did it have me do belt tension. I don't know why. That is, to me, very bizarre. But it's going to do this for a while. Belt tensioning is very easy, though, as far as I remember. Okay, testing your load cell. Okay, load cell works. Now it's checking the Z-axis. It did go down and bump all the end stops though, so or it did flatten out, so now it's doing the probing. I think it's going to check each corner and see, probably run down, flatten it again, test it again, see if there's repeatability. My lead screws are a little little bent looking. I might have to figure out how to straighten them because they look pretty bent. Like you can see them wobbling. So right now it's heating the bed to 110C, and it's heating the nozzle to 290. Which luckily I don't have anything fed in there, but it's gonna basically cook anything that's on it. Yeah, the lead screws have way too much wobble for me. Um, I wish there was a way I could fix that, but they came directly off and they've been on the desk the whole time, so I haven't like laid them down on their sides or anything. Heating is good, good. But now it's just checking the bed temp, so it raised the nozzle temperature and now it's falling. "24-volt heat bed on the PCB is slow. The Core 1L, I think, is going to be way faster." Let me get the stool. Okay. So, gearbox alignment, I have not done yet. So, we're going to do gearbox alignment. By the way, I flashed the firmware. It didn't have my network set up because it was already set up after it did the reset. So I'm going to do Wi-Fi later. Door sensor calibration. I read the instructions. I did that. I did that. I did the nozzle tap. Gearbox alignment. That's where I am currently. So continue. Before you proceed, make sure filament is unloaded from the extruder. Okay. Okay. Now it says to unlock this. One and a half. One and a half. One and a half. So it's pretty loose. It's turning the gears. Says to tighten the M3 screws firmly in the correct order. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we do filament sensor calibration. No filament is loaded. So we just did the gearbox there. And latch it. Check the manual switch on the filament. Make sure that it is on. On is not in the X position, so it is currently on. So on is pushed back on the back of the machine. You will need a short piece of filament, prepare filament, and continue. That's easy because I got plenty of filament. Let me grab one. We're going to take a piece of a very pretty filament. By the way, this is aquamarine elixir. I'm also going to cut it at a 45-degree angle. A pretty piece of aquamarine. Okay. Right. Okay. I basically skipped through all of calibration. So I think when it stopped buffering, it ended with that. So yeah, I think that lost my viewership. Sorry. Okay, so if anybody actually is still here, let me know. But yeah, I just did the filament sensor calibration and I think it stopped. And then basically it just has, visit printables and how to start your printer and blah, blah, blah. And then version history. Oh my God. She listening to TV and it was really loud. I think that's it. Okay. Let's go into help and figure out how to do belt tensioning. So Core 1 Plus. That is disappointing. They don't tell you anywhere about belt tensioning. That should be like the first thing you do. Okay, well, let's find it. So I'm gonna go to settings. Filament sensor, side sensor, enabled, tool head, filament sensor. So both are enabled. Stuck filament detection. Correct. Auto retract, I like. No MMU. Camera, there's no camera. No stealth mode. Fan check, verified G code. Chamber filtration is not enabled. Input shaper, I can't really do anything. Phase stepping, I think I can let it do calibration, but I won't do that until after it's been changed. Hardware. Filament auto loading. Filament auto loading was, I think, what it starts to actually start to pull filament. The door sensor is by default turned off. Chamber vent control is automatic with the fans. Nozzle cleaning, retraction. I don't know sure about that exactly. Homing calibration. It says ask, but I think it should be auto. Actually, I do like ask. Let me try that. Refresh, display refresh speed at high. I don't know why you'd want anything else. G code checks. You warn about anything. So input shaper, if it, the G code level, compatibility, firmware version, model number. Yes, you can actually run Mark IV S G code on a Core 1, I believe. Manual belt tuning. Let's calibrate the belt tension. Before we begin, scan the QR code for the guide you'll need. So we're gonna go here too. So I'm gonna type this in. Prusa.io/core belt calibration. Let me try the QR code. Adjusting the belt tension. It's under printer maintenance. So it's under printer maintenance. Body camera installation, how to replace the hot end, how to replace the filament sensor, refill rolls, how to replace the door sensor, um, how to reverse the door orientation, which is cool that you can do that. I like reversing the door orientation. Luckily, because I'm putting the printer on the left side of my desk, it doesn't matter. How to pack the Core 1 for return. Advanced filtration, which I might get to eventually, custom packaging, how to replace the buddy board, how to replace the hot end, how to replace the filaments, extruder filament sensor, the heatsink, the hot end, XY motors, replace the front fan, the heat bed power cable, the chamber fan, hot end thermistor, hot end heater, belt tensioner pulley, left and right, how to replace the low board. Still nothing about the belt tensioning. Okay. Support. Okay. Yeah. Let me verify this real quick. Like, I like QR codes, but if you can't get them on your computer, prusa.io/core dash belt dash calibration. There we go. I must have misspelled it. I'm gonna. It's just bigger though, because I can't read it from here. I mean, I can, but okay. Adjusting the belt is option as optimal tension is crucial to achieving quality prints. Layer shifting, ghosting, and other printer navigabilities. Getting irregular shapes. Hey, the engine nerd. I haven't seen you in a long time. Thanks for joining. Sorry, I've been trying to publish everywhere that's like self-promotion, and it's really hard to let people know. And then my stream died. Like I just had to restart the stream because YouTube kind of sucks now. I I want to do simultaneous streaming so that like Twitch can be a failsafe. The other problem is I have not been recording the stream, so I'm at the mercy of YouTube's recording. So I learned my lesson from the future is always record your streams, especially if you're going to edit them in the future. Lubricate your screws, which I have done. Fall check applies exclusively to Core 1 kits. Pre-assembled Core 1s have done this step in the factory. During the assembly process, we instructed applying a small amount of lubricant on the screw. However, the Core 1s did not have the step on their manual. In this case, the other steps have not worked. Belt tensioner left and right, and they're attracted belt tensions. Since you started your new job, you're all busy. Yeah, I'm busy making these things. Like, I can't really give you all the details, but essentially, I've been behind the scenes making all the stuff that we use to help assemble these printers in the US. So I've been basically doing everything I did at my previous company, the one that you picked me up at. But this one, they give me actual more things that I can do. So anyway, I have lubricated the screw. Before adjusting left belt, ensure that the proper alignment of your core XY structure. Ensure the stepper motors are disabled. This can be done by switching the printer off by hand. Move the neck extruder to the front position of the center axis. Press the gantry cover corner. Make sure there's no play. Do not press. Do this procedure on both sides. If there's any play on either side, perfect alignment is not achieved yet. Quick gantry alignment. So there is no way to basically prevent the gantry from racking except for belt tension. So you basically have to like so we're going to check the squareness. Move the print head up to, this is going to guide me through the same steps. I'm going to open the door all the way so you can see it. But basically it says move the print head to the front. Check there's no gaps between the gantry and the tensioner on both ends. So you're basically checking squareness on both sides. Nope, there's no gap. Like you'd feel a little bit of play on both sides. So continue. So now it's humming. Measure actual belt frequency. The upper belt will be measured first, then lower. Use the knob to adjust the resonance. Correct frequency appears as slow belt motion with sharp peaks. This is a really cool process. I'm going to have to get you as close as I can get, because I really want to show this process. This is really cool. It might not show up on camera that well, though. Okay. I might need to be on a step stool for this. You kind of look at the upper edge. It is actually tension too high. And then we're going to do the lower belt. This probably doesn't show up on camera well. You also can't hear it, but I'm going to lower the frequencies on both. Um, should I tighten on this one? Oh, the lower one you can absolutely see. Okay, there we go. Now you see it. Oh, you can't. You're just seeing flickering. Sorry. There we go. There we go. So the bottom belt is actually, it looks like it actually looks like it's going in and out. There we go. So you should be able to get like a normal belt tension. Uh, so the left one is the upper, which I think is fine. And the lower one I think is too high. So you want to get them close to each other. So the upper one is 75, so that needs to go up. I think you have to go slow because once you get it, it has to start oscillating. There we go. So that's 114. So the lower one needs to go really low, and the left one needs to go really high. Okay. So I need the tension, the right side, and loosen the second one. And we'll get it closer. I think this There should be an initial tensioning, and I think there's there's a way to tension. The bottom belt is still way too high. Yeah, that bottom belt tensioner needs to go like quite a few less. And this goes a little bit more. I think we're getting close though. This does take a lot of time though. Um, I think a little printed belt adjustment would be really nice. There we go. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So you can actually see how much your tensioning makes a difference. So 86. You should get around 90. To 92. I think 92.5. And then the bottom one. Yeah, so it's 110. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it a little bit and go down. There we go. So it's at 101. I'm going to lower it. Trying to get it to match the other one. It is very sensitive though. It's really hard to get it to. There we go. Wow, 75. It's the belt is super sensitive. I turned it maybe an eighth of a turn. There you go. Now it's peaking. That's 88. So it says actual belt frequency is 92.5, lower belt is 88.0. Optimal tension is between 90 and 98. Ready to calculate screw adjustment. Please press continue. Turn both screws 1/8 of a turn and press continue and done. So 1/8 is that much. And I'm going to do it one more time just to verify. I want to get them basically at right at 90. Because once I print, I'm going to do this again. So like 87, 88. And this is the upper one, which is here. So I want to go a little bit tighter. So we're at 90. So 92 for the upper one. And then the lower frequency is going to be I want to lower this one. There you go. We're trying to get them both exactly at 92. I think that's close. So it says adjust belt tension. There is no need to turn the tensioner screws. Press continue to finish calibration or adjust to repeat measuring. I'm going to press continue. Okay. That is a really complicated process. It's not complicated, but like you got to get a feel for it. And I suggest turning the screws with an Allen key or something that you can gauge. I personally think you should get a nut driver and a dial and like actually make a thing, a jig for belt tensioning and maybe a gate so that you can look so you're not kind of distracted. Like, I don't know, maybe a thing that goes over here that's just quickly turn two screws and look at it. I think it's a good process. I think it's better than having to do it with a gauge, but I think you should do a gauge first. You should do the gauge first. I'm going to run it because it needs the belts need to stretch. I think there's a little bit of twist in these belts, and I think they're still way too loose. Like I can feel no tension in one, way more tension in the other. The bottom was super loose. So I feel like they're not equally tensioned. I'm going to tension the bottom one more. I'm going to do this calibration one more time. And the lower one is this side. So I think the lower one is way off. See, it already is low on the bottom side, so I'm already going to have to tension the top. 93. And then the lower belt, I think, is so low. That's so low that I don't think it's registering properly. There we go. I tightened it quite a bit. And now at 78 hertz. Yeah, 76 hertz. I'm gonna do more. Quite a bit more. And you can see the gantry shifting as we're testing it. Okay, so at 80, 85. Yeah, you need a preliminary belt tension. Just do what feels right. Yeah, and that's the thing is I think there should be a way. I think there should be an optical way. I mean, really what it should do is you should use a load cell. You should clamp a load cell to this bar that basically checks the top and bottom belt, and then you basically turn until the load cell goes. Like that's what I would do. But instead of a load cell, even a calibrated spring with a gauge, like a calibrated gauge, works. I think the other problem is if you tighten one set of belts, the other one gets looser because the gantry is moving. So I think the bottom's out at 92. There we go. So the top belt is now at some really high standing waves. One 18. Now 114. 108. So I think when one was really high and one was really low still. On a 4. $94. Lower belt. Yeah. 67. That's what I mean. I think it's you're chasing it. So it's 86 now. So the more you tension, the higher the frequency goes. That's 92. So 94 and 92. They feel a lot more tension than they used to. And we're going to verify this again. So upper frequency. Okay. 112. And we're going to loosen that. -3.5. I think what I'm doing is stretching the belts. It still feels like one is higher than the other. The lower one feels so low. I'm gonna try to, I'm just doing it by feel, but they're really close. I'll do it one more time. I feel like the upper belt is so tight. Under it. There we go. And we're back. Okay, so sorry about that. It looks like there's 5 viewers. Oh, now it's gonna try. Okay, now it's jumping around. It's not doing a good job. I think what's happening is my network traffic is going. Something is pulling a lot of network traffic. And we're back. Okay. So, man, let me. I see you said test, so I'm seeing how much of a delay. So it is a really long latency. Yeah, I'm dropping a lot of frames right now. Yeah, this is really frustrating. I never had this problem with Twitch, really. But I'm dropping packets, which makes dropping frames a lot of drop frames. Like currently I'm dropping frames, so I hate troubleshooting. I have a really, really high ping count right now. I think my upload speed is being capped. Yeah, my ping is really bad. Yeah, so you said 45-second delay. I'm just testing it reversed. So I'm basically saying break and then see when it actually comes off. Uh, while we're waiting for YouTube to not be stupid, I'm gonna do a test file because this is gonna show up on video. Now my internet is having serious issues. Here we go, 3D models. All right, okay. Let's just do printables. Benchy. I think they had one already pre-made. This is the Prusa research for 3D Benchy. We're gonna do a PLA Benchy. That's for the Mark IV. Mark III and the Mini. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's do slice. Open Prusa slicer. Open. And then I'm going to switch to sharing Prusa slicer. Okay. Now we're going to do PLA, generic PLA. 0.2 speed. Input shaper, high flow. We're going to add remove printer. I'm going to select the Core 1 Plus. Updated configuration. Okay, Prusa Research, Core 1 Plus, iFlow. I also want to select for 0.4 and 0.5. Actually, I just want all of them. I probably will never use any of these, but I know I've used the high flows. Speed, iFlow, 0.4, generic PLA. And then we're going to export G code to USB. Okay, I export it to a flash drive. And then it comes up on the screen with the preview. And we're going to load filament. Okay, now we're back to good quality. Okay, are you guys here now? Let me know if you are live. So I'm starting a Benchy print that I sliced. I'm currently in the loading menu. So this is a 15-minute Benchy. Well, I don't know if it's a 15-minute Benchy. It's a 39-minute Benchy, but it's a speed 0.2 profile. So it's a standard Benchy profile. This should at least give me a good average quality, at least the look of a good quality piece. Okay, so it extruded. Hold on, let me get my stuff off. I think what is happening is is my mom is watching TV, and I wonder if it's prioritizing the video stream over my upload speed. So it just opened the vent. Now it's heating the bed and the nozzle at the same time. Or it goes to 170 for the idle temp, and then it goes up to um, 60 degree on the bed for peeler. What was the delay on that? Okay, now tell me. Yeah, priority. Wow, 1 minute. Well, that's good. It doesn't seem to be humming right now. Or calibrate the humming. I might have to mess with belt tension and the gantry squaring. I remember having to do this. It does take some time. The gantry is racking, I can tell. Okay, so what we're gonna do is so what happens is the gantry is pushed this way more than this way. Um, and I think that's partially due to belt tension. Yeah, the lower one is way looser than the bottom one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to settings and then do the belt tinning again. I think what they recommended doing, at least I've seen, is essentially if you have bending, you basically push this back and put an Allen key in between one side, and you just slightly bend it. You're basically trying to bend it square. It is way out of square according to this. One more time. There. That was pretty bent. See, I mentioned this before, but essentially these metal brackets, these L brackets, are steel, and that's the only thing keeping this thing naturally square. There's nothing keeping it naturally square other than to bend the bracket until it's square. So when you tension the belt, it doesn't matter. And then when you try to home it, it could be the right belt tension, but it's still not squaring itself. So when it tries to home itself, so 90 hertz on the upper belt, which is good. I'm going to just try to get to 92. I'm going to lower belt. '81. '86. 89. 91. 92. Let's verify this time. They do feel both pretty tight. Now let's try another print. 3D benchy. Yeah, so I basically had to bend the frame into square and then check tension again because that does relieve a little bit of tension, I think. Um, it's doing a different homing sequence now. I think if you haven't homed it for the first time, it's doing a homing calibration. I think it memorizes when it actually has calibrated the home, and if it fails calibration, a lot of the vibration is because this thing's on the rubber foot, and the camera is also vibrating because it's on the same workbench. So there's a lot of vibration going on. It's failing the calibration now. I don't know what it did, but it worked. You can see the Z rods wobble a little bit. At least the rear one does. At least it doesn't squeak on the rods. Now it's doing nozzle cleaning by it basically just kind of pushes up against the plate and then it wiggles it a little bit, I think, or it holds it so it kind of blobs on the plate. And now it's gonna do its Z calibration or its bed probing. One, and it actually only probes the part of the bed that it's gonna print. So it does kind of like the Clipper version where it does a fast probe. That is pretty convenient. It does more probing after it cleans the nozzle. Oh, it's just doing an additional probe on the edge of the bed. Not sure why it does that. Then the hot ink heats up to 230. So the bed's at 60 right now as it was doing its probing, which compensates for any kind of deflection. After the stream, I'm going to move it to my computer desk. I'm going to actually leave it here till tomorrow. But I'm going to let it finish the whole benchy and then I'm going to end the stream because I got to be up tomorrow. But that is a perfect first layer. That is the best looking first layer for a benchy I've ever seen. Especially with automatic probing. By the way, I didn't have to touch the vent. It automatically opened the vent for me. It's a little squished on the first layer. I can see a little bit of the bumps. There we go. Now it's doing the full speed. Sorry, it's really wobbly because the printer is on squash balls and the whole workbench is wobbling with the camera. But this is pretty decent for a 30 minute, about a 30 or 40-minute benchy. It's not like a super fast benchy. But it kind of shows you the print quality for speed. It's kind of quiet, but like it's loud. Like it's definitely gonna uh it's definitely gonna bounce off my walls. Um, I might have to insulate around it. Um, that is using a 0.4 nozzle. So this is a 0.4 CHT or a CHTI flow. They call it a high flow in the HF, but HF 0.4. And if you change the nozzle, you have to tell the printer what nozzle it has in it, so that it knows that with Prusa Connect it can detect it. But I think it also changes flow rate and stuff, like max flow rate available, depending on what nozzle you select. But it is still all combined. Thanks, Combat Gnome. Yeah, this was a really, I would say, challenging. It's a lot of the stuff I already expected because I've built the Core 1 at work. I've also used the Core 1 as a test. I had the Core 1 at home for a couple weeks to test, and I had the same issues. My gantry was out of square. I don't think my belts were tensioned correctly, so I had to basically do it with the tuner app, using the guitar tuner app. But using the strobe tuning, I think, is really nice. But I would recommend that they mention belt tuning when you're doing the conversion kit. Like they should put that when you're building the Core XY assembly to put a preliminary tension. I think they should have a printable belt tension guide that comes with the kit, just to like verify that your belt is close to the same tension on both sides, and then also have you go through the belt tensioning guide before you even start printing. I think they skip it like this thing will just magically work. I don't know how it would magically work if they never tell you the tension of the belt. Like the guide skips around so much. I'm not complaining, but I definitely have a lot of points to make about the documentation on this. It also assumes that if you're building a kit like this, a Mark IV S to Core 1 conversion, that you have some experience with printer maintenance. I think that's what I would assume, but I don't think that's always true. But belt tensioning is absolutely part of printer maintenance, and I think it should be done on the Mark IV, a Mini, every printer. I think even Bamboo Labs printers have a belt tensioning guide, but like for some reason I think they come out of the factory pre-tensioned out of the box. Like I don't know how. I think the Core 1s are tensioned at the factory, correct? But with shipping and everything, the gantries can get out of square. I think the gantry design is not the best. I think those linear rail mounts with the steel metal bracket, um, they bend them square, but the problem is that the gantry could be not square because it's still a bent piece of steel. Like there has to be some way to verify that that steel is square. Like, and the way they do it is just you bend it square, and it just retains it with plasticity. So you're basically bending the metal to with plastic deformation to keep it in a square position. I don't know if anybody who's built a kit has done that, but like I did it with the beta test machine, the testing machine that I had, and I also did this. I think we had to do it on the one that we built at the factory, and I think I don't know. I'm just I think it's a big omission from the instructions that they do have a whole guide though on how to belt tension and adjust your squareness, and it does tell you when you're testing it that it failed. Now, if it failed the homing calibration, then it's going to tell you go to here, go to this QR code. Then it's going to go to the belt tensioning. So it does eventually guide you the belt tensioning. So I guess if you're reading all the instructions and prompts on the screen, you wouldn't miss it. But my thing is that the guide itself should have you tension the belts before you even get to that point. But anyway, that's my my rant about that one. Other than that, it's printing fine. This is about as close to a decent benchy as I could get. I'm just happy that it's built. I will be changing the extruder parts though. Also, it's a fairly clean looking belt print. I can even see the 3D benchy. I can see the 3D print benchy parts on the back. And this is just random PLA from Printed Solid. Like it's you know, it may or may not be good. Yes, I think there's a few things I can go back and read and make comments on. But and I know they read that stuff. They do read the comments, but I might do that later. Not right now. But because I have this video documentation about my process, that's why I want to condense this video into like a little 5 to 10 minute highlight reel, where I do some voiceover. I think that might be the best option, is just do some voiceover. The problem is I am not support. So I think, yeah, I am not support. So I don't make those calls, but I can make a suggestion. Anybody have any questions? I'm gonna have to go to bed after this benchy finishes, so let me know. I certainly go through and read them. There's a bunch of comments on the steps like that, especially when the comments are talk about more optimized order of operations and instructions. Yeah. Stuff like the event, how you don't clearly see, and they don't really clearly tell you which way to flip the vent. but they definitely should say right is open and left is closed. Like, and I only know that because I've done it at work, and we verified a couple printers that way, and like to figure out, you know. But the thing is, I have a bias because I've already done this stuff through work. If I was a new person that didn't have any frame of reference, there's a lot of stuff I would miss. Yeah, thank you, comment. I appreciate that. Um, I really do plan on having more in-depth detail stuff, like how hard is it going to be to replace the extruder nozzle? Because I actually have all the carbon fiber parts for the extruder. Uh, that's not a big deal, but that's going to be something I do. I'm going to get a camera. So how hard is it to install the USB cable? I mean, it's going to be that complicated. I think there is some software that you can upgrade, but it should be straightforward. Filtration, the advanced filtration unit probably won't have its own like live stream or video, but I might do that and then maybe just have a print that demonstrates an ABS print. Like I have a couple of pieces, ABS and ASA. I mean, yeah, definitely make a suggestion what you want to see. Now that I have this built, like there's a lot of things I could do. I'm not going to make any major changes really though. Like the MMU3 might take a while if I do that. I'm definitely not getting an not AMS, a index, a Bontech index. Like I'm not getting one for at least another year and a half. Probably another year before they actually become available. But yeah, when they come available, I'm definitely getting one. I think it is the killer app. And also design stuff. Like I've done, at least on Twitch, I've done it. But here, I want to do, Fusion streams, Fusion tutorials. Do you want to do any projects? I will be open for doing projects. I want to do an actual formal video on my dowel rod system. So I actually made a system. If you look me up on printables under Mitch 3D, I have my dowel rod system is actually it's a OpenSCAD parametric dowel rod system, and I want to show how it works. I think that would be a fun project. I'll post the link on there. So any other tips for the build or for my sanity before I start upgrade kits? I think comment no, it depends on, do you have a stock Mark 4S or is it a Mark 4? I say that because I didn't know which parts were going to be transferred from the Mark 4S onto the Core 1. And so starting with a Mark 4 non-S, I had to figure out which parts I was missing. I thought it was just the fan. I thought the fan was the only thing, but no, there's PCCF parts. There's the Wi-Fi board's different. I think those are the main ones. The Wi-Fi board being different and the PCCF parts not being in the extruder. And then like the other thing too is the kits that are probably shipping, if you get the kit directly from Prague, they're going to be set up for the Core 1 before the Core 1 Plus. So I would recommend getting the Core 1 Plus kit from Prague before you build the kit. Does that make sense? Because the Core 1 Plus kit does come with the PCCF parts and the printed parts and the rubber O-ring, which is hard to source, and the 3x12 Torx screws. And I think it comes with longer screws for the puck and the other things. So there's quite a few things that were done on the Plus upgrade that I think would be nice. Okay, so you Okay, so they did include it with you. And so I think with the Mark 4S yeah, I think you remember telling me you have four Mark 4S's and one Mark 3.9. What I would recommend, yeah, the Mark 3.9 to S, I think you'll be okay. Because I'm pretty sure it's the same as the Mark 4S. Um, yeah, yeah. The plus is a nice upgrade. It's really nothing more than printed parts and a few little fasteners and an O-ring. Um, but it is very nice. It has made this printer a lot more usable. Um, I think the only thing I could recommend is that you pay attention to every single step, like I did, and take your time. And I also recommend that you have a big enough workspace that you're not having to lift this thing up and down because this thing gets heavy quick. If you have to move it at all, you're gonna break your back. The other thing I would recommend is that when you get to the Core XY stage, on printables, there's belt tensioners. Uh, I'm gonna post this link. I would probably start with this just to make sure your belts are evenly tensioned, and also pay attention to make sure that your upper and bottom belts, when you hook them in the carriage, that they're the exact same length. So make sure they're pulled through the carriage plate or the neck extruder plate. Make sure they're pulled through at the exact same length for both of them, because that will vary the tension, and it will cause the racking. And then also follow the squareness guide, because if the frame is not square, it's going to cause a lot of issues. So you can do what I did, where I basically used I put a tool in between one and kind of bent it. I deformed the frame a little bit more to make it flat so it hits on both sides. And then the other thing is I would recommend, I don't know about this one, but I would recommend getting a parts bin or tray and basically taking all the fasteners and sorting all the fasteners into their own bin. That has saved so much time than trying to find screws in those boxes. If you have the room on the table, I would absolutely recommend laying out everything so that it's visible as well. I have a problem is that I have a tiny workbench, as you can see. So I was basically maxing it out, and I have my laptop, taking up space as well. I wouldn't recommend printing out the instructions, but they do have PDF instructions. It might have been easier to do paper instructions and then write with a pen, mark up the instructions on questions, or if you have to go back and make sure you know what you did where, kind of do notes as you go. That might help a lot. I know that we do paper instructions at least Printed Solid, and I think they do paper instructions at Prusa as well. So I think paper printed instructions are nice because you can stay focused, but you can also just write. I don't know. I feel like paper instructions are better than electronic instructions. They're also easier to read if you're older, instead of a small screen. Yeah, definitely null your parts. Nulling is where you basically place all the parts in kind of categories on your desk, where they're evenly spaced and kind of nicely organized. You don't have to go that crazy, but when I build Lego, if you want to watch a Lego stream, by the way, I have a few Lego kits I can assemble on stream. But basically I sort my Lego parts by type and color. And it helps a lot for visually because I'm definitely a visual person. So it's halfway through the bow. It's almost starting in the portholes. It's kind of loud. Like it really, that's the one thing I recommend. I think this thing needs like sound deadening mat. Like I think I'm gonna buy some of the knockoff kills mat. Uh, Let me find a non. So what sound deadening mat is it's basically butyl rubber with an adhesive. Um, it's basically the stuff that and it's pretty thin stuff too. And I think it's thin enough that it wouldn't interfere with anything. Yeah, so this is called, yeah, so basically generically it's an adhesive butyl rubber that comes in sheets. And I think just that alone would be enough to dampen a lot of the high frequency like any because it basically it's a thick rubber and the rubber basically prevents resonant frequencies because it kind of absorbs the energy, the sound energy. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I know that they use them in cars for the exact same thing for any kind of noise, road vibration. I think I would also recommend the feet that I use. Let me see. There's a couple of them. This is the one. Oh yeah, Dynamat was the original, and it probably is better, but like you can get way cheaper sound deadening from. Uh, and the other thing is I'd probably put a couple pieces of foam like just for echo dampening on the wall that's behind the printer, just to prevent you know reflections. Because this is gonna it's the sound of it's gonna get picked up by the microphone. But I'm using a heavy filtering. That's probably why you don't hear it in the background. And yeah, the mod that I posted, that's the one I'm using currently. You basically buy squash balls on Amazon. They're very cheap. Um, yeah, they're $13 for three. So I think if you get four, okay, maybe they're cheap if you buy. Yeah, if you buy a yeah, there's like $22 for all of them. I don't know. They're not that cheap actually. They're kind of expensive now that I think about it. But because they come in 3 packs, so it depends on how many you buy. But again, most people are using. The other thing is they have yellow dots or red dots, and that's I think the squishiness of it. So you want to I think use the 2 dot one. That's what at least mine has, is the 2 yellow dots. of the squash balls. Oh, that's right, because you do command vehicles, so you probably have a lot of things that vibrate and make noise. Um, I need to do it on my car, but I have too much on my car. Like I've done too much to my car. I don't want to have to take door panels off. That's a lot of work. Um, but this printer is so exposed, like all the steel is so exposed that I wouldn't mind cutting a bunch of Dynamat in it inside and outside, and like it also heaps. Probably would help with heat insulation too. Although I'll have to say this came a long way from the Rostock Max and the Artemis. Although yeah, the Artemis was never this fast, unfortunately. Um, I think Delta printers have too long of belts and they need to be properly tensioned. And the effector has to have like no play in it. Um, it does look good though. Like the Delta printers usually do look good. Although I really do like having a moving bed and fixed XY gantry, because it makes the camera a lot easier. Um, Also, this printer has about the same build volume, a little less build volume than the Artemis, especially the height. I was able to get 500 millimeter tall height for the Simi Cincy Artemis, but the X and Y is about as a as so if you put a 300 millimeter diameter plate, you're still getting like you don't get quite the same dimensionality, but like this bed is about the smallest I would want to go on a normal printer. I think 300 by 300 square is a lot more useful, but the printer casing is huge. Uh, Below the vehicle, the whole vehicle resonates. Oh yeah, I don't know if butyl rubber is going to help you with that. I'd have to look into it. But you probably should put the whole generator on a like an isolation, like the squash balls on this printer. Maybe you can use a bunch of like rubber balls to isolate it. There are rubber dampening mounts though, kind of like an engine mount. I don't know if that already has it, but or you can justify them buying you a 3D printer and you can make it out of TPU. TPU isolators work. It's about to do the bridge. So far, it has no stringing. It looks really clean. It looks like a really good first print. Uh, it does have a bow line. There is a prominent bow line, but other than that, like it's a very clean Benchy. I think the bow line also might be a cooling issue because it doesn't seem to have front cooling. But yeah, it's very clean. Okay, well, have a good night. Yeah, I'm gonna end the stream as soon as this is done. YouTube keeps kicking me off, so. Okay, we're almost at the. We started the steeple or the smokestack, whatever they call it. So it's 3 minutes left. Yeah, it did perfect bridging bow. Um, Basically, it's a perfect benchy except for the whole line. And I think the whole line might be a temperature thing. There's a little bit of temperature variation. After the stream, I'm actually gonna move it on my workbench or my desk where it's gonna actually rest, and that way I can work on it from there. And then I gotta get rid of all this cardboard. There's a whole pile of cardboard at my other side of my room. I basically have no use for the rest of the cardboard. I don't like keeping cardboard. There we go. Oh, it's not done yet. There we go. It's finishing the top layer, and then it's doing a smokestack. There's a lot of dust in my room. I probably should get a filter out the dust. Almost done. Last couple layers. And done. And done. I forget how tall a bench is. I think it's like 60 millimeters. 43, I think. That's it. And it lowers the plate past the bar so you can't see it. And it does the auto retraction. So you can't really see it, but there's the benchy. Okay, I have really nothing to say. I'm going to move this printer over, turn it off, and then I'll mess with it tomorrow. Probably not. I actually have to pack and leave. So I can't mess with the printer anymore. Here we go. Have a good night.